Hey everyone, and welcome back. Hope you're all doing well today. Today it is quite realistically a very gloomy and dismal day outside. It's been raining pretty much nonstop, but we're not going to let that get us down. I've got a freshly made tea here, a candle lit in the background, so everything is feeling nice and cozy. Today I want to share with you 15 common household items that I've personally chosen to live without and that I don't own. And these are all things that over time, as I've slowly decluttered my life, I've either gotten rid of or perhaps didn't own in the first place because I didn't really see a reason why I needed to buy that item. I'm a big believer in keeping only things that you use and that add value to your life, and if something doesn't meet those two criteria for me, I have no issues getting rid of it, which is what happened to quite a few of the items we're going to be talking about today. So I'm excited to share this list with you and talk about some everyday items that I don't own. But as I go through it, be sure to comment down below and let me know if you own any of these items or perhaps if you've also decluttered them too. Alright, well I'm excited to jump right into this, but before we do, if you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button below and let's get right into this. Let's start off with number one. The first item that I don't own is a clock. I don't own an alarm clock, a wall clock, really anything that is dedicated to telling time exclusively, apart from one watch, which I do own, but I won't really count that as part of the clock category. The beauty of modern day technology is that the phones that we carry around in our pockets not only can serve as clocks and as alarms, but can also serve dozens of other purposes. I have my phone with me at most times and can take it with me wherever I go. So for me, it's just a far more practical option than having a stationary clock that really can't be moved easily and that you have to be in a precise location in order to even tell what time it is. Another common item that I don't own is a computer mouse. And I will say I have gotten some funny looks from people on this one before when they find out I don't use a mouse, but I use a laptop for work, and for me, I've never particularly enjoyed the process of using a mouse. And so even though people say you can do a lot more precise movements and things like that with a mouse, I've just personally always preferred to use the trackpad on my laptop instead. So even though I did actually used to own a mouse, I ended up decluttering it and giving it to a friend a few years back simply because I just wasn't using it. So I know that this one might be a bit of an unusual one for some. I don't think that Christopher could live without his. He uses his all the time. But for me, it's just something that I personally prefer to live without. Also, I've seen in the comments before that some of you question whether or not I actually have tea in here. I always drink tea while I'm filming. Sometimes it's out of view, sometimes it's in view, but today I'm drinking a lovely peppermint tea and it's really good. Moving on, the third thing that I don't own is cast iron pots and pans. And I know so many people who, in addition to having their regular cookware set, will also own either a cast iron skillet or some other cast iron item that they use as a part of their cooking paraphernalia. To me though, that's just one extra item that I don't need. Not only are they a huge hassle to clean up, but it's just something that if I were to own it, I honestly don't think I would use it. I love my beautiful ceramic pots and pan set, and they are incredibly easy to use and to clean. And so really just by comparison, I don't think I could justify bringing any kind of like extra cast iron cookware items into my life. Next, number 4 is that I don't own a blazer. And I feel like blazers are often considered part of the minimalist uniform. I always think of Used Lust, who has this incredible minimalist style and really pulls off blazers so incredibly well. They look really polished and put together, and to be honest, I love the way that they look on others. But for me, it's just an item that I've determined that it doesn't make sense for me to own because it just doesn't fit my personal style, or at least what I feel comfortable wearing on a day-to-day basis. And so for me, this one really falls into the category of I didn't wear it when I had it, and therefore I'm not going to own it anymore. Earlier this winter, I got rid of the last blazer that I was holding on to, and to be honest, I haven't even noticed it was gone. Next, number 5 is that I don't own any makeup remover, makeup wipes, makeup pads. I don't own any of the like paraphernalia or solutions or anything related to removing makeup that's like dedicated towards that purpose. Now, as I say that, I did used to own all of the items I just mentioned, but in the past few years, I have gotten really comfortable with and started really enjoying just removing my makeup using warm water, a towel, and a bit of coconut oil. It's a great minimal solution for removing makeup, and what I found is that not only is it a lot cheaper because I'm not buying specific products dedicated towards that purpose. Coconut oil is really cheap, and I go through a very small amount of it, and I already had a washcloth on hand, but also it's helped clear up my skin quite a bit as well. So I've noticed that I have less breakouts and things like that since I've switched over to this very gentle and natural way of removing makeup. Now, the sixth thing that I don't own is single-use food prep items. And when it comes to kitchen gadgets, there are so many of them, so I'm just going to name a few here. I don't own a melon wedger, a banana slicer, an avocado pitter, a strawberry huller, is that what they're called? I don't have a peach pitter or an apple slicer, and honestly, the list goes on. The one exception to this that I will say that I do own is a garlic press. And the reason I own that is, for me, it's not actually a single-use item. So I use my garlic press to mince a ton of different things, mostly garlic and onion though, because Christopher doesn't like the texture of chopped up onion, so I mince it instead so he can't actually get the texture in. So that's one item I do have, but like I said, for me, it's not really single-use because I do use it in multiple ways. But in general, I don't like owning single-use kitchen gadgets because I find that most of the time, a good knife can do exactly the same or better of a job than the specific dedicated gadgets can. Okay, number 7 is that we don't own an Apple TV, a Roku, an Amazon Fire Stick, or any of those other kind of similar devices. So we have a PlayStation, which we originally bought because Christopher wanted to have some kind of gaming device. But what we've discovered in the process is that it really does have all of the apps that you would want from one of those other devices. We actually used to own an Apple TV, but we were able to get rid of it and to sell it because our PlayStation did exactly the job of the Apple TV and more. So with that one, it's a great example of how we were able to find one item that serves multiple functions instead of having to keep multiple items that each can only really serve a single function. Number 8 is a common makeup item that I don't own. I don't have any bronzer in my makeup collection. To be perfectly honest, I don't have a really strong reason for why I don't own bronzer, apart from the fact that I've just never owned it, and so I've just never invested in it personally. Again, this is something that I think can look really good on other people, but because I've never bought it, I wouldn't even know what kind to get, how to apply it, or anything like that. And so for the sake of simplicity, it's just not something that I've ever invested in or own currently. The 9th thing that I don't own is any kind of subscriptions to newspapers, magazines, or any kind of news outlets. And whether it's to the digital or to the physical version, I know a lot of people who have some kind of subscription to some form of magazine. Personally, I don't find magazines to be particularly uplifting or inspiring. To be honest, sometimes the information in them can bring me down more than anything else. Plus, they're often chock full of ads too. So because there's something that I don't typically find that I get a lot of value from, it's just something that I've chosen not to invest in, and it's an easy way to save money and just have one less thing to worry about. I'd far rather spend my time and money on a good book instead, and so that's typically what I'll do. Number 10 is a GPS. We don't own one, but I'm curious to know, do you have one? I wasn't going to include this in the list until I discovered that several of our friends actually own GPSs, which I thought was really interesting since we all have them on our phones now, but apparently they're still common enough that many people still own a physical dedicated GPS. Now for me, the reason why I don't own one is because my phone literally has one built into it, and whenever possible, I'll always choose the multi-purpose item over the thing that only has one dedicated purpose. So personally, I've never felt the need to go out and buy a GPS, but if you do have one, I would love to know what kind of function or utility do you get from it. Be sure to comment that down below. I'm really interested to know. Enough about that though, let's continue on to number 11, and that's that we don't have cable TV. So for the past few years, we were living in an apartment where we were contractually required to have and to pay for cable TV. And to be honest, we rarely, if ever, used it. And so the moment that we bought our house about a month ago, we immediately cut the cord and got rid of cable. Since we honestly don't watch TV that often, this was actually a really easy decision for us to make, and it ended up saving us about $20 per month. And the nice part is, because we cut the cord, not only did we save that money each month, but we were also able to get rid of our very chunky satellite TV receiver box. I think that's what it's called, and then the remote that goes with it too. So we were actually able to declutter 2 physical items in the process of getting rid of cable as well. So that's just a nice little bonus that we got for saving money. Okay, the 12th thing that I don't own is a pocket knife, and growing up, I pretty much always had a pocket knife, but as the years went on, I discovered that I used it less and less and less, until the point where I pretty much stopped using it altogether and decided to let go of it. I know a lot of people who swear by having some kind of multi-tool or a dedicated sharp knife, but as somebody who doesn't go hunting or fishing or do any kind of extreme camping all that often, it really just didn't make sense for me to own as an item. Again, with this one, when I got rid of it, this was something that I didn't even miss because it wasn't something that I could take with me when I was flying to go anywhere. And then around the house, I always had some other tool that would do the same job as well, if not better, whether that was a knife, scissors, or anything like that. So for me, a pocket knife just didn't prove to be a useful enough tool for me to justify keeping. All right, next, number 13 is dumbbells or workout equipment. So my personal workout equipment collection, if you will, involves a yoga mat and nothing else. Workout equipment can be really expensive, and thus far at least, I found that bodyweight exercises and really just getting outside and having some natural cardio can really be a great way for me to stay in shape. Plus, I really love being able to stretch and do yoga, but the beauty of that is that you don't actually need any real equipment apart from a mat to be able to engage in and to practice that. Now, while I'll be honest and say that this one might change in the future, especially if I don't decide to get a gym membership now that we don't have one built into our apartment complex, what I'll say is that for the time being, I'm really happy with what I've got. So I'm not immediately planning on going out and investing in dumbbells or at-home gym equipment or anything like that. I'm just going to take things as they come. For now, I'm really happy with what I have. That might change in the future, but we'll see. Okay, 2 left here. Number 14 is an Instant Pot. And I know so many people who've either bought or been given these in the past few years. I feel like it's very much the food contraption of the day. I love cooking at home, but typically when I go to cook something, I'll either use the stove or our oven, but a pressure cooker really isn't something that I would even think of or really know how to use. Most of my favorite recipes can be made using just our stove. So while I know some people who swear by Instapots and absolutely love them, personally, it's not something that I particularly have a draw or desire to own. And then finally, number 15 is a robot vacuum. And I was honestly surprised to learn how many people I knew who actually owned these. To me at least, these seem like a kind of unnecessary contraption, especially since you probably are going to need to own a regular vacuum to get into the corners anyways. So while we do own a regular vacuum, having a robotic one just really isn't on my list of things to buy or that I really want to own. I think it would just be one extra item that I don't particularly need, that would cost a lot of money, and that honestly I could probably do a better job of vacuuming myself. All right, well that's it. Those are 15 common household items that I don't own. But now I want to know, do you own any of these? And kind of if you do, what use or what value do you get from it? Be sure to let me know that in the comments below, and if you've personally decided to get rid of some of these or you've never owned them in the first place, I'd love to know that too. So just hit me up in the comments. I hope you guys enjoyed this video though, and if you did and you want to see more like it, well then you're in luck. I've actually created an entire other video on exactly this topic. So if you want to see 20 more items that I don't own, then go ahead and check out the link in the description box where you can see an entire other video on it. And before I go, a quick reminder, be sure to give this video a like if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you haven't already for more simple and intentional living videos coming at you twice a week. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram if you're on there. I'm at ashlynne.eaton, and I love connecting with you guys there. I'll have that linked in the description box for you too. That's everything for today's video though. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.